Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. This is the Captain's Quarters Show. I am your host, L. Milliner, the Captain. Thank you all for joining me. In this video, I will be reacting to Larry Elder's appearance on The Breakfast Club. If you're not familiar, The Breakfast Club is one of the largest, if not the largest, urban platform in America. It's a radio station, and they have a very diverse group of people that come on their show to do interviews, from entertainers, hip hop rappers, R&B artists, pop artists, even politicians on the left and the right, no pun intended. But in this show, they had Larry Elder on. He is running for president in 2024 on the Republican ticket. So that's really the main reason why he was there to begin with. And without further ado, gonna bring in the video. This is going to be a wild ride. Hop aboard with the captain and let's ride.
And the answer is I bring a lot of issues to the table that I feel our side is not talking enough about, if at all. For example, the number one social problem in America by far is the epidemic not of COVID, but of fatherlessness. 70% of Black kids today enter the world without a father in the home, married to the mother, up from 25% back in 1965. Now, 25% of white kids enter the world today without a father in the home, married to the mother. And the stats are clear. Even Barack Obama once cited them. If you're raised without a dad, you're 5 times more likely to be poor and commit crime, 9 times more likely to drop out of school, and 20 times more likely to end up in jail. What's happened? In the mid-60s, with I think the best of intentions, a Democrat named Lyndon Johnson launched what he called the War on Poverty. And since then, we have incentivized women to marry the government and incentivized men to abandon their financial and moral responsibility. You know, when I say this to people, the pushback I get is, well, there are lots of things that are going on, systemic racism, poverty. Here's the problem. If you look at a young Black male aged 10 to 43, that's young to me because I'm 71 years old. A young Black man in that demo is 13 times more likely to be murdered than a young white man, same demo. Young Black man, real young, 19 and under, the number one cause of preventable death is homicide, almost always at the hands.
Wow. That's an appalling stat. That's an appalling stat.
Of another young Black male. Same demo for whites, the number one cause of preventable death is unintentional deaths. That includes drug overdoses, automobile accidents, drownings. It's not until they get to number 4 that death is the cause. In America, 60% of the shootings, the robberies, and the homicides are committed by Black people, often against other Black people. Of the homicides in this country, half of them are Black victims, almost all killed by other Blacks. How do you explain that if it isn't for the absence of fathers? Are you prepared to say Black people are just genetically inclined to commit more crime? I doubt it. And the go-to reaction often is poverty and systemic racism. Here's the problem. 1940, when there was blatant racism, this is before Brown versus Board of Education, before the Civil Rights Act of 64, KKK was still alive and well, 87% of Blacks lived under the poverty line. Now it's about 14%.
Oh, really? So one of the go-to reasons why a lot of Black people say, and a lot of liberals say in general, oh, in the Black community, they have high crime because of poverty. Poverty is the conduit to make them commit robbery and make them commit assault and burglary and home invasions and all of this. Really? So back when he's talking about back in the day, 87% of Blacks were under the poverty line, but the crime wasn't out of control like it is today. Today, 14% of Blacks are under the poverty line, but the crime is way exponentially higher than before. How do you explain that one? Yeah, that's one of those things that they try to skip over. You know, and I have these conversations with people and I bring this stuff up all the time. They always want to talk about poverty. And I say, well, let's talk about what causes the poverty, what kind of facilitates that in the first place. Because poverty doesn't create the crime. The lack of fathers in homes is the number one predictor of a young child to become a criminal or be a high school dropout. All right, to go to jail. That's it. You take care of the fathers in the home, everything else gets a whole lot better overnight. It will happen overnight. So he is spitting all facts. Now, one thing he said I disagree with was that Lyndon B. Johnson, according to him, he had the best of intentions with the whole war on poverty, the whole welfare state. I disagree. I think that it was by design to do what it has done, and that is to dismantle, disrupt the family in America on all sides, right? Just disrupt the family in general. So that way people need the government or feel like they need the government more, and they became dependent on the government. I think that was the goal, and they accomplished it. But let's keep listening.
You can't blame it on poverty. You can't blame it on racism. It is the breakdown of the nuclear intact family, and neither side is talking about it. The left doesn't talk about it because they caused it with the welfare state, and our side does not talk about it because if you're white, you'll be accused of dissing single moms who are heroically raising these kids, or you'll be accused of being a racist, or if you're black, you'll be accused, as I was by the LA Times, of being the black face of white supremacy. Nobody's talking about that. I am.
What are the reasons, if your statistics are right, what are the reasons that you think fathers aren't in the home?
As I said, it's because in the mid-'60s, Lyndon Johnson launched what he called the War on Poverty. In Charlemagne, literally, they sent social workers door to door in the inner city. I remember this.
Mm-hmm.
That's a fact. That is a fact. The man, I mean, he's giving the real of the situation. He really is. Let me find this other clip right here. All right.
1910, 1920, 1930, in places like Milwaukee, Chicago, Philadelphia, a young black kid was slightly more likely to be brought into a world with a father in the home married to the mother than a young white kid. We have incentivized this kind of bad behavior, and it's had a disproportionately bad effect on the black community.
Let me ask you a question.
Oh, wow. So he's saying back in 1910s, 1920s, that there were places where in America where blacks had higher rates of fathers in the home than the white families. And now it's flips. Interesting. Very interesting. But back then, with those fathers in the home, you had a lot less crime. You had more kids graduating high school. You had more educated kids. You had more well-behaved children who were educated. That's what you had. They could read, they could write. Okay. They could do their math. They were productive citizens. And now you see less poverty, but you see higher rates of fatherlessness in the home, and you see higher rates of crime. You see high dropout rates, high prison rates for these same individuals. It be white, black, and everything in between. If your dad is not in the home, you are exponentially more likely to end up on the wrong side of the tracks. That's period. Now, I want to fast forward this, and I suggest you all check out this entire interview. It's very good, but I want to hit another part of this that he's getting a lot of attention from people, and let's get into that part.
For 4 years, referred to the 2016 elections having been stolen, her word, not mine. She called Donald Trump illegitimate, her word, not mine. Jay Johnson, who's Obama.
He's talking about Hillary Clinton, by the way.
Obama's DHS secretary, testified under oath that not a single vote tally was changed by the Russians. They tried, but they failed to change a single vote tally. 66% of Democrats believe the Russians changed vote tallies to get Donald Trump.
Look at this room right here. So this lady right here on the screen that you see, she's on like Zoom or something. And what they do is they bring her in. I've seen her on other interviews as well, where they have, matter of fact, Vivek Ramaswamy. I did a video on him when he came to the Breakfast Club, and she was there as well on Zoom. And what they do is they bring her in because she's supposed to be the person who's the political minded person. She does her research. She's going to put him, Larry Elder, on the hot seat, right? And ask him the tough questions, put him in a corner where he looks dumb, stupid, and just the old out of touch black man, right? And so what happened was in this interview was he flipped that on all of these people in this room, and he destroyed the whole panel. So right here you have Charlemagne looking just confused. She's listening because she's probably running out of questions to ask because he's been destroying her the whole show. And you have DJ Envy over here. His mind is frying in real time. He doesn't even know where he is right now. He can't keep up. he's depending on Charlemagne and Miss Figaro to take care of Larry Elder. Okay, that's the expectations from DJ Envy. Now let's keep listening to what happens in this clip.
Elected, even though Jay Johnson testified under oath, not a single one was changed. That's the damage that people like Hillary and former President Jimmy Carter and Stacey Abrams and Hakeem Jeffries and others have said for years, referring to Donald Trump as illegitimate. A greater percentage of Democrats believe 2016 was stolen than we feel that way about 2020, but yet nobody calls them election deniers and nobody accuses them of undermining our republic. And they're not undermining our republic. They're complaining about an election. You have a right to do so.
Now here we go.
I know you probably got to go. Have you ever heard of the term nigga wake up call?
No.
It is an incident where a person of color forgets that they are of color and are reminded rather brutally by an unexpected act of racism. Have you ever had any of those?
Oh, brother.
I'm just asking.
Larry Elder is getting a drink of water to hydrate his throat, to make sure that he speaks very clearly and strong, because he's about to annihilate this man right here to ask that question. In 3, 2, 1.
You think you've ever?
Well, I'm acutely aware, Charlemagne, that I'm a black person, just as you are a black person. And when Joe Biden insulted you by saying, you ain't really black, we don't know whether or not you want to vote for me or vote for Donald Trump, it seems to me that should have been a wake-up call on your part. How dare this guy come in here and insult you, a black man, and tell you you got to think a certain kind of way? I'm amazed that you weren't mad about that.
I'm not gonna say it upset me, just like I'm not letting you upset me. You know what I mean? I don't tend to get upset over things like that. But what I did say,
well, you just not talk about a nigger wake-up call, and it seemed to me that should have been a wake-up call on your part to have a white guy come in here who also said, by the way, about Mitt Romney, because he didn't want to put more regulations on Wall Street, going to put y'all back in chains. And Joe Biden has lied for decades about his civil rights record, claiming that he desegregated movie theaters and restaurants in Wilmington, Delaware, when he didn't do any of that. He lied and said that he tried to visit Nelson Mandela during apartheid South Africa. He did not. And he came in here and told you aren't even black and let you think a certain kind of way. It seemed to me that should have been a nigga wake-up call for you, but it wasn't.
Woo! My goodness. So that is the part that's getting a lot of attention from people across the board. I've seen people who don't even really discuss politics talking about that part of that interview. But like I said, watch the whole thing, because it's a wealth of knowledge from Larry Elder throughout the whole interview. And like I said, they brought in the lady to neutralize him, and it didn't work out to their advantage. But shout out to Larry Elder. He did a great job as usual, man. The man's a legend. But thank y'all for watching. Let me know down in the comments what y'all thought about the interview, what y'all thought about what I showed, and if there's anything that you saw in the whole interview that you wanted to mention, say it down in the comments, and I will go through those and do my best to get through all the comments, all right, and reply. If you will, share the video. I appreciate it. And of course, hit that subscribe. Till next time, this concludes our ride. Thank you for hopping aboard with the captain. This was the Captain's Quarters show. I was your host, L. Milliner, the captain. Until next time, I'm gone.